The stars outside the alien palace burned cold and blue. 1,000 moons cast silver light across the tall spires of the mistress's homeworld. Inside, silence ruled the endless halls of black stone and glowing crystal. The alien mistress walked slowly, her long robes whispering against the floor. Every step she took carried power, for she was feared by her people and obeyed without question. But tonight she was not thinking of her empire. Tonight she was thinking of the human. The human bodyguard stood near the great doors, tall and silent. His armor was simple, not shining like the alien warriors, yet his presence filled the hall. His eyes were sharp, his movements calm, and his loyalty had never been broken. Or so it seemed. The mistress stopped and looked at him, her cold alien eyes unreadable. To her people, humans were still a mystery. Some said humans were weak, greedy, and short-lived. Others whispered they carried something strange inside them, something no alien could understand. The mistress herself was not sure. That was why she had chosen this one man as her protector, and that was why she planned to test him tonight. Hidden deep within her palace were treasures older than her empire, gems that glowed with fire, blades that could cut through steel, scrolls of forbidden knowledge. No one was allowed to touch them. Not her servants, not her soldiers, not even her closest kin. But what would a human do if those treasures were left in the open? Would he remain loyal? Or would he betray her for glittering wealth? The mistress moved quietly to the chamber of treasures. With her own hands, she unlocked the ancient seals and let the doors swing wide. The room glowed with light as the forbidden riches revealed themselves. Jewels the size of fists sparkled. Golden statues lined the walls. Strange alien crystals hummed softly, filled with dangerous power. She left it all there, unguarded. Then, with a secret smile, she gave an order for her human guardian to guard the hall for the night. She spoke softly, her voice like ice. "You will stand here. No one enters. No one touches what lies inside." The human bowed his head. "Yes, mistress." She turned away, but she did not leave. Hidden in the shadows above, she watched. Her eyes followed every move of the man she called protector. At first, he stood straight like a statue. His gaze never moved. His hands rested on his weapon. Hours passed, and the hall was silent. But the treasures glowed brightly from the open chamber, and slowly their light touched the man's face. The human glanced once. Just once. But that was enough. Inside him, curiosity grew. The jewels shone like stars. The golden blade seemed to whisper promises of power. His heart beat faster. He had never seen such things before. No human had he told himself he was loyal. He told himself he was only protecting what was hers. But still the thought came, what would it feel like to touch one of those treasures? He clenched his fists, trying to silence the voice in his mind. The mistress, hidden in the shadows, saw everything. Her lips curved into a small, cold smile. The test had begun. The human took a step closer. He looked into the chamber, eyes wide with wonder. The crystals reflected in his gaze, and his breath grew heavy. Another step. His boots touched the threshold of the treasure chamber. He stopped. He shook his head as if fighting with himself. His loyalty was strong, but temptation was stronger. The mistress leaned forward from the shadows, her alien heart cold with anticipation. Would he resist, or would he fail? Minutes passed. Silence pressed on the air. The human's hand twitched near his weapon. Then slowly it lifted. His arm stretched forward, shaking slightly. His fingers reached out toward a jewel, glowing bright as a star. The mistress's eyes narrowed. Her trap was closing. At last, the human touched the treasure. The gem was warm beneath his hand, pulsing with strange alien power. His eyes widened in shock, and yet he did not pull away. He held it, breathing hard as if its weight pressed against his soul, and in that instant, a voice filled the chamber. Cold, sharp, and echoing like thunder, so the human froze. His head turned slowly. There she stood, the alien mistress, no longer hidden, her tall figure glowing in the strange light of the chamber. Her robes shimmered and her eyes burned with fire. "You touch what is not yours," she whispered, every word like a blade. "You reach for what is forbidden." The human's hand trembled. The jewel slipped from his grasp and fell, striking the floor with a sound that echoed through the hall. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to speak, but no words came. The mistress stepped closer, her presence heavy as a storm. "I trusted you," she said softly, almost like a sigh. And you could not resist. The human dropped to one knee, his face pale. Mistress, But her hand rose, silencing him. Her eyes glowed brighter. The air grew heavy. For a long, endless moment, she said nothing. Then her lips curved into something unexpected, something dangerous. A smile. You have proven what I needed to know, she whispered. And now, the real test begins. The hall fell silent. The human shivered. The treasures gleamed brighter as if laughing at his weakness. And the alien mistress, her trap complete, prepared to decide his fate. The chamber was heavy with silence after the jewel fell. Its sound had echoed like thunder across the endless hall, and now the human guardian stood frozen, his breath sharp in his chest. Before him, the alien mistress's eyes glowed with cold fire, watching every movement, every tremble of his hands. But she did not punish him. Not yet. Instead, she turned away slowly, her robe trailing behind her like shadows. Guard the treasures, she said in a calm voice. I will return when the night is done. The human lowered his head, ashamed, but her words struck him with confusion. Had she forgiven him? Or was this only the beginning of something darker? He could not know. The mistress vanished into the shadows, though in truth she had not gone far. From a hidden place above, she continued to watch. Her trap was not complete. She wanted to see more. She wanted to see how deep the human's heart could fall, or how strong it might rise. The treasures glimmered in the dim chamber, their light spilling across the human's face. The jewels burned like captured stars. The golden statues whispered of forgotten kings. The strange alien crystals hummed softly, their glow crawling into his mind. He tried to look away. He gripped his weapon tightly, forcing his gaze to the cold stone floor. He told himself again and again, I am a guardian. I am not a thief. But the whispers of temptation would not stop. His eyes drifted back to the treasures. His chest tightened. Every breath he took seemed to pull him closer to them. He remembered the world he had come from, his poor home, his people struggling for survival. With one jewel, he could save them all. With one statue, he could buy freedom. With one crystal, he could command power that no man had ever known. The human's fist shook. Was loyalty to the mistress more important than the lives of his own people? Was guarding forbidden treasure worth more than saving the innocent? And so the real battle began, not with swords or blades, but within his heart. The mistress leaned forward from the shadows, her alien gaze sharp. She had seen countless warriors break. She had seen rulers fall. She had seen greed destroy entire civilizations. But she had never seen the soul of a human tested in this way. Tonight she would see it. The human paced back and forth before the chamber. His boots struck the floor in a rhythm of unease. He looked at the treasures once more, then turned away. Again and again. At last he stopped. He whispered to himself, one touch, only one. No harm will come of it. His hand rose slowly, trembling as it stretched toward the glow. He stepped across the threshold. His heart pounded louder than the hum of the crystals. Sweat covered his brow. His fingers hovered above a golden blade, its edge shining as if alive, and then he pulled back. The human gasped, shaking his head. His chest rose and fell in heavy breaths. He turned away, pressing his hands against his armor as if to restrain himself. No, he said softly, I will not fall. But the treasures did not stop calling. Hours passed. The hall remained silent, but inside the human's mind storms raged. He thought of his people. He thought of the mistress. He thought of himself. Every thought was torn between honor and desire. Finally, as the night grew deeper, he stepped once more into the chamber. This time his eyes burned with determination, not greed. He lifted one of the jewels, heavy and glowing, in his hand. He did not clutch it for himself. He lifted it high, as if to challenge the very mistress who had placed it before him. If this is a test, he whispered into the empty hall, then let her see I do not fear temptation. His voice echoed through the chamber. But even as he spoke, his grip tightened on the jewel. The glow sank into his skin, and a strange warmth spread through him. His heart thundered with confusion. Was this strength, or was this corruption? High above, hidden in the shadows, the mistress's lips curved into a smile. She had seen enough to know that the game was not yet over. The human had touched the treasure again, and though he tried to justify it, the trap had already closed around him. She whispered softly to herself, a voice only the cold air could hear. Tomorrow, the next step begins. Tomorrow he will face the truth of what he is. The human placed the jewel back among the others. His hand lingered on it, trembling before he finally let go. His chest still ached with the battle inside him. He turned his eyes back to the doorway and forced himself to stand tall, guarding the chamber once more. But his heart was no longer calm. It was divided, and when dawn's light touched the palace walls, he knew nothing would ever be the same again. The first rays of dawn touched the spires of the alien palace. Cold light crept into the treasure chamber, painting the golden statues and glowing jewels in shades of fire and ice. The human guardian stood tall at the entrance, his face calm, his armor scratched from long hours of stillness. To anyone passing by, he looked like a man who had never moved through the night, but the truth was different. Inside his heart, a storm had raged. He had touched the jewels, lifted them, felt their power. He had promised himself it was only to test his own will, only to prove he could resist. Yet the memory of the warmth in his hand lingered. He had broken the mistress's command. He had touched the forbidden, and now she came. The air in the hall shifted. The human felt it before he heard her steps, slow, steady, filled with power. The alien mistress entered the chamber, her tall form glowing faintly in the morning light. Her robe shimmered with strange silver threads, and her alien eyes burned brighter than the crystals around them. The human bowed low, his heart pounding. "Mistress," she said, nothing at first. Her gaze moved past him, falling upon the treasures. The jewels were in their places. The golden statues stood unmoved. But her eyes narrowed slightly, for she could feel the faint change in the air, the whisper of energy disturbed. She could sense what had happened. Her voice was soft, almost calm. "You stood guard all night?" "Yes, mistress." His voice was steady, though his throat felt dry. Her gaze returned to him, sharp as a blade. "And no hand touched what lies within?" The human hesitated, only for a heartbeat. But in that moment, the silence spoke louder than words. The mistress's lips curved into the smallest of smiles, a smile without warmth. "Interesting," she whispered. The human straightened, his fists clenched at his sides. "I swore to protect you. I would never betray that oath." The mistress stepped closer. Her presence was like a storm pressing down upon him. She circled him slowly, her eyes never leaving his face. "You are loyal," she said. "That is true. But loyalty is not the same as honesty. Tell me, human, did you touch my treasures?" The human's heart hammered. His mouth opened, but no sound came. He wanted to say no, to hold fast to the lie. Yet the weight of her gaze broke through his defenses. Her eyes seemed to see through his very soul. At last he whispered, "Yes." The word fell heavy into the chamber, echoing against the walls. The mistress stopped before him, her face unreadable. For a long time she said nothing, only stared at him. Then her voice came sharp as ice. "You broke my command. You touched what was forbidden. You failed the test." The human fell to one knee. "Mistress, forgive me. I did not seek to steal. I only sought to test my own strength. I only wished to know if I could resist." Her eyes narrowed, but her voice remained calm. "And did you resist?" His head bowed lower. "No." The chamber grew colder. The jewels seemed to dim, as if even they feared her anger. The human braced himself for death. He had seen her punish others for lesser crimes. He had seen her wrath burn cities to the ground. Now surely it was his turn, but death did not come. The mistress's hand lifted, not in anger, but in strange calm. She placed her long alien fingers beneath his chin and lifted his face until his eyes met hers. "You are strange," she said softly. "Strange among all I have known. You failed, yet you do not deny it. You admit your weakness. Do you know what that means?" The human swallowed hard. "That I am unworthy?" Her smile deepened, sharp and dangerous. "No, it means you are human." Confusion filled his eyes, but before he could speak, she stepped back. Her voice rang through the chamber, echoing like thunder. "This test is finished. You touched the forbidden and you admitted your crime. But now you must face a greater trial, not of jewels and gold, but of blood and fire." The human rose slowly, his hands clenched. "What do you mean?" The mistress turned, her robe swirling like shadows around her. She walked toward the great doors of the chamber, her voice carrying across the stone. "You will fight. You will bleed. You will stand where no man has stood before, and only then will I know if you are worthy to remain at my side." The human's chest tightened. He had faced many battles in his life, but something in her tone filled him with dread. This was not a test of guarding. This was not a test of loyalty. This was a trial that could kill him. Yet even so he lifted his chin. "I will face whatever you place before me." The mistress paused at the doorway. Her eyes glowed with cruel delight. "Good," she whispered, "because tomorrow you enter the arena." The human stood in silence as her figure vanished into the halls beyond. His hands trembled, not with fear but with the weight of what was to come. The treasures around him glimmered coldly as if mocking his weakness. And in the shadows of the palace, the alien mistress smiled to herself. The trap had worked. The human had failed, but his true trial had only just begun. The alien palace was quiet, but the silence felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The human guardian walked through its endless black stone halls, his thoughts filled with the mistress's last words. "Tomorrow you enter the arena." He did not know what waited there. He had fought enemies before, both human and alien. He had faced blades, fire, and hunger. But the way the mistress had spoken, calm yet cold, made him feel that this trial would be unlike anything he had ever known. That night, he could not rest. He stood on the balcony of his chamber, looking at the stars. The moons of the mistress's world burned above, their light sharp and cruel. He thought of his oath to protect her. He thought of the treasures he had touched. He thought of how close he had come to losing himself. Was this the price of being human in a world ruled by aliens? When dawn came, soldiers arrived. They were not human. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their armor shimmered like liquid metal. They did not speak to him, only gestured for him to follow. The guardian walked with steady steps, though his heart beat faster with every corner turned. The soldiers led him down into the depths of the palace, deeper than he had ever been allowed before. The air grew colder. The halls became narrow. The walls were carved with ancient markings, symbols of death, conquest, and victory. At last they reached a great gate. Beyond it he heard the muffled roar of a crowd. The human frowned. A crowd? The gate opened, blinding light struck him. The sound of thousands of voices exploded into the air. He stepped forward and his eyes adjusted. He was standing in an arena. The floor was white stone scarred with old blood. The walls rose high, lined with rows upon rows of alien spectators. They looked down at him with cold eyes, their voices like thunder, chanting in languages he did not know. Above them all, on a high throne, sat the mistress. Her gaze was sharp, her expression unreadable. The human clenched his fists. This was not just a test. This was a spectacle. She had made his trial into a show. The mistress's voice carried across the arena, calm and powerful. "People of my world, today you see the truth of this human. He is my guardian. He swore loyalty. But he has touched what is forbidden. He has failed a test of trust. Now he must face the trial of survival. Only if he lives will he remain at my side," the crowd roared. The human stood still, his eyes fixed on her. He could feel the weight of her trap pressing down on him. She had not simply wanted to know his loyalty. She wanted to break him, body and soul, before the eyes of her empire. The gates on the far side of the arena groaned open. From the shadows, something moved. Something heavy. Something alive. The human's hand tightened on the hilt of his blade. His breath slowed, his mind focused. Whatever came out, he would face it. The creature stepped into the light. It was huge, taller than 3 men, its body covered in black scales that shimmered like stone. Its arms ended in claws sharp enough to cut through steel. Its mouth opened with a roar, rows of teeth dripping with venom. The ground shook as it stomped forward, and the crowd roared louder. The human's chest tightened. This was no simple fight. This was meant to kill him. The mistress leaned forward on her throne, her eyes locked on him. Her voice whispered, though he could almost hear it in his mind. "Show me what you are, human." "Fail here, and you are nothing," the creature charged. The human leapt aside, rolling across the blood-stained stone as the beast's claws slammed into the floor. The ground cracked where he had been standing. Dust filled the air. The crowd screamed with excitement. He rose quickly, blade in hand. His eyes burned with focus. The beast roared again and swung. He ducked, feeling the wind of its strike brush past his face. He slashed at its arm, his blade cutting through scale but not deep enough to stop it. The creature turned and raged. The human moved fast, striking again and again, his blade flashing in the light. Each cut drew sparks, each strike testing his strength against the monster's armor. But the beast was stronger, heavier, almost unbreakable. The human's heart pounded. His arms ached. But he did not stop. He had faced death before. He had nothing else to give but his will. The crowd roared louder, some cheering for the beast, others whispering in shock that a human still stood. The mistress watched without blinking, her alien eyes sharp as knives. The human dodged another strike, rolling beneath the beast's belly. For a brief moment he saw a gap between the scales near its chest, a weak point. He thrust his blade upward with all his strength. The beast screamed. Blood, black and burning, splashed across the stone. The human pulled back as the monster staggered, its roar shaking the arena. The human stood tall, his breath heavy, his blade covered in alien blood. He looked up at the mistress, his eyes defiant. The crowd fell silent. The mistress leaned back slowly on her throne. Her lips curved into a dangerous smile. The human had not fallen. Not yet. But the trial was far from over. The arena floor was covered with dust and blood. The human guardian stood tall, his blade dripping with black venom from the creature he had just slain. His chest rose and fell in heavy breaths. His muscles burned, but his eyes remained sharp. Around him, the alien crowd screamed with 1,000 voices, some cheering, some demanding his death. On her throne above, the alien mistress watched him closely. Her face was calm, but her eyes glowed with hidden fire. She had seen humans fight before. She had seen them bleed and break. But this one was different. He had survived the beast. He had faced death without fear. Yet her trap was not finished. She raised her hand. The crowd grew silent. Her voice echoed across the stone walls. The first trial is done, but the true test begins now. The far gates of the arena opened again. From the darkness came not one but 3 figures. They were not beasts this time. They were warriors. Tall, armored aliens, their blades curved like fangs, their armor dark as night. They moved with deadly grace, their eyes fixed on the human. These were not simple soldiers. They were champions of the mistress's empire, killers who had never been defeated. The human's grip tightened on his blade. His arms ached, but he lifted the weapon without hesitation. His mind whispered that he could not win, not against 3 trained killers. But his heart answered with a single truth. He would not kneel. The first warrior charged. Their blade flashed like lightning. The human blocked, the clash ringing across the arena. Sparks flew. The second warrior attacked from behind, forcing him to roll across the blood-stained stone. The third leapt forward, striking from above, steel sang. Dust rose. The human fought like a storm caught between blades. He blocked one strike, ducked another, countered with a slash that cut across alien armor. But 3 against 1 was more than skill. It was survival itself. The crowd roared with each clash, their voices rising like thunder. The mistress leaned forward, her sharp eyes never leaving him. She wanted to see not only if he could fight, but if he could endure. Could a human survive when the galaxy itself turned against him? The human's blade cut deep into the leg of the first warrior, sending him crashing to the ground. But before he could finish, the second struck him across the shoulder. Pain burned through him, blood staining his armor. He staggered but did not fall. He gritted his teeth, raising his blade again. "I will not die here," he whispered. The warriors pressed harder. Their blades rained down like fire, each strike meant to end him. The human's arms shook, his body screamed with pain, but he moved with a strength born not of power but of will. He parried, dodged, and struck, every move carved from desperation. At last he found an opening. With a roar, he drove his blade through the chest of the first warrior. The alien's scream filled the arena before silence took him. The crowd gasped. One enemy was down. The mistress's lips curved into a smile, but the test was far from over. The second warrior attacked with renewed fury. The human barely blocked the strikes, his arm weakening. The third circled like a predator, waiting for the moment to strike. Blood dripped from the human's wounds. His vision blurred, yet in his mind he saw not the arena, not the mistress, not the crowd. He saw his people. He saw Earth, he saw the reason he fought, not for treasure, not for survival, but for the truth of being human, and in that truth, he found strength. When the second warrior lunged, he sidestepped and drove his blade upward, piercing through alien armor. The warrior fell with a cry, black blood spilling across the stone. The crowd roared louder, half in shock, half in rage. Only one remained. The third warrior circled him, slower now, more careful. The human's chest heaved, his body nearly broken, but his spirit burned. They clashed again, blade against blade. Sparks flew, dust rose. The human stumbled, fell to one knee, the warrior raising his weapon high for the final strike. And then, with the last of his strength, the human thrust upward, his blade piercing through the alien's throat. The warrior dropped lifeless onto the stone. The arena fell silent. The human stood barely able to breathe, blood dripping from his wounds, but his eyes were steady. He had survived. On her throne, the mistress rose. For the first time, her voice carried not coldness, but a hint of respect. "The human still stands," she said. The crowd erupted, their voices shaking the very walls. Some cheered, others cursed, but all knew the truth. Against the impossible, he had endured. The mistress's gaze burned into him. Her trap had not broken him. It had revealed something far greater, and yet in her smile there was no mercy. "Tomorrow," she whispered to herself, "the final choice will come." The human met her gaze. His body was broken, but his spirit was unshaken. He had faced the beast. He had faced the warriors. And he knew deep inside that this was not the end. The arena floor was quiet now. The blood of beasts and warriors stained the stone, and the human guardian stood in the center, his blade broken, his armor torn. His body was weak, but his eyes still carried fire. Around him, the alien crowd whispered in disbelief. No one had expected a human to survive. No one had expected him to still stand. High above, on her throne, the alien mistress rose to her feet. Her robe flowed like liquid silver, her presence commanding silence. With a gesture of her hand, the great gates of the arena closed and the noise of the crowd faded into silence. Her voice, calm yet sharp, carried across the stone. "You have survived, human. You faced death, and yet you remain." The human looked up at her, his chest rising and falling, every breath heavy with pain. "I swore to protect you. I did what I had to." Her lips curved into a dangerous smile. "And now you must face the last trial. Not of beasts, not of warriors. This test is greater, for it is not fought with your body, but with your heart." The human frowned. "What do you mean?" The mistress lifted her hand. At her command, servants entered the arena. They carried chests of glowing jewels, golden crowns, and blades of shining alien steel. They placed them before him, their light filling the air with beauty and temptation. "These treasures," she said, "are yours to take. With them you can buy freedom. You can leave this place, return to your kind, and rule as a king among men. No chain will bind you, no oath will hold you. You will be free." The human stared at the treasures. His heart beat faster, for the light of the jewels stirred memories. His people, his world, the hunger and poverty he had once known. With this wealth he could save them. He could change everything, but the mistress was not finished. She stepped down from her throne, her tall figure descending into the arena. Her eyes glowed as she walked toward him, each step echoing like a drumbeat. "Or," she whispered, her voice soft yet heavy, "you can remain at my side. Not as a prisoner. Not even as a servant, but as my chosen protector. Share in my power. Stand with me, and together we will rule. Your loyalty will be rewarded with strength greater than these treasures. You will walk among the stars, feared and respected." The human's breath caught in his throat. The jewels gleamed on one side, the mistress's burning gaze on the other. Two paths, two futures, each heavy with consequence. He looked at her carefully. "And if I refuse both?" The mistress's smile faded into ice. "Then you will die here, a nameless body on the arena floor." Silence stretched across the chamber. The human stood between riches, power, and death. His body trembled not from fear, but from the weight of the choice. He thought of his people. He thought of the treasures, how much good they could do, how many lives they could change. He thought of freedom, of walking away from this alien world forever. Then he thought of the mistress, of her eyes sharp yet curious, of her tests cruel yet deliberate. She did not see him as weak like the others did. She tested him because she wanted to know the truth of humanity. And if he left, if he took the treasures, what truth would he leave behind? That humans were greedy? That they could not be trusted? He closed his eyes, his hands shaking. At last he spoke. "I choose neither riches nor power." The mistress's eyes narrowed. "Explain." The human lifted his head. His voice was weak but steady. "I did not fight for gold. I did not fight for your throne. I fought because I gave you my word. My oath is my truth. If you trust me, then I will serve. Not for treasure, not for power, but because I am human, and we keep our word." The mistress studied him. Her gaze was cold, but in its depths burned a strange fire. For a long moment she said nothing. The jewels glowed at his feet, waiting to be claimed. The silence pressed heavy, then slowly she laughed. Not cruelly, but with sharp delight. "You are indeed strange," she whispered. "You refuse riches. You refuse power. You choose only loyalty. No alien I have ever known would make such a choice. Her laughter faded and she stepped closer, her voice softer now. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans. Perhaps there is more to your kind than weakness and greed. The human bowed his head, his body shaking, but his voice steady. I am not perfect. I failed your test of treasure. But I will not fail my oath. The mistress's eyes narrowed once more, but her lips curved into a smile. She turned to the silent crowd and raised her hand. This human has chosen his path. He has faced temptation and death. He has shown the truth of his kind. From this day forward, he is no longer a mere guard. He is my protector, my shield, my blade. The arena erupted with sound, cheers, anger, disbelief. The human stood tall, the treasures at his feet ignored. His heart was heavy, but his spirit was unbroken. The mistress looked at him one last time. Her eyes burned with curiosity, respect, and something else, something dangerous. The final test is over, she said. But your story, human, has only just begun. The arena was empty now. The crowd had gone, their voices fading like echoes of a storm. Blood still stained the white stone floor, and broken weapons lay scattered like forgotten bones. But in the center, the human guardian remained. His body was broken, yet he stood tall, his gaze steady. Above him, the alien mistress descended slowly from her throne. Her steps were calm, but her eyes burned with thought she did not yet reveal. She stopped before him, her robe flowing like liquid night. You had the chance to take treasures, she said softly. You had the chance to rule beside me. You had the chance to die with honor. And yet you chose something smaller. Something. Stranger loyalty. The human met her gaze. His voice was quiet but strong. I chose because it was right. Not because it was easy. The mistress studied him for a long moment. Her people had always said humans were weak, that they were greedy, that their short lives made them desperate and untrustworthy. She had believed this too. That was why she had set her trap. That was why she had tested him with jewels, with monsters, with warriors, and yet he still stood. Not for gold, not for power, not even for survival. He stood only because he had given his word. The mistress's voice lowered, almost like a whisper. Do you know why I tested you, human? The guardian shook his head. Her eyes glowed faintly as she spoke. Because I do not trust anyone. Not my soldiers. Not my people. Not even my blood. Power corrupts all. I thought humans were no different. I thought you would betray me the moment temptation touched your hand. And you did, for a moment. But then you returned. You admitted your weakness. You did not hide it. You did not lie. No alien would have done that. The human's chest rose and fell, heavy with pain. Because we are not perfect. We fall, we fail. But we rise again. That is what it means to be human. Her eyes locked on his. Silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. Then, slowly, the mistress laughed, not the cruel laugh of power, but something softer. Something dangerous. You are different, she said. Your kind. Perhaps all of you are different. The human straightened, blood dripping from his wounds, but his voice steady. You wanted to know the truth of humanity. Now you have seen it. The mistress tilted her head. Tell me then, guardian. What is the truth of humanity? He breathed deep, then spoke, his words carrying across the empty arena. The truth is this. We are fragile, but we endure. We are tempted, but we rise. We make mistakes, but we learn. We fall into darkness, but we fight our way back into light. That is what makes us strong. That is why, no matter how many empires rise, no matter how many powers fall, humanity will never be broken. We are more than our weakness. We are our will. The mistress's smile faded, replaced by something new, respect, perhaps even fear. For the first time in her long life, she felt uncertainty. If all humans carried this strange fire, if all of them refused to be measured by wealth or power, then perhaps her empire, perhaps even her people, had underestimated the most dangerous species of all. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. Very well. You are no longer my servant. You are no longer even my protector. From this day you are my equal. The human's eyes widened. Equal. Yes, she whispered. For you have taught me something no treasure, no battle, no throne ever could. You have shown me the truth of your kind, and I will never forget it. The silence of the arena deepened. The jewels at his feet gleamed faintly, ignored. The blood on the stones dried. The trials were finished, but something greater had begun. The human bowed his head, not in submission, but in respect. Then I will stand with you, not for treasure, Not for power, but for the future. The mistress's eyes glowed brighter, as if the stars themselves lived within them. She whispered, her voice like a vow. In a galaxy of countless species, humans are the one flame that cannot be measured, cannot be controlled, cannot be extinguished. The human guardian lifted his gaze to hers. His body was scarred, his spirit unbroken. And though the arena was empty, though no crowd remained, it felt as if the entire galaxy held its breath. For in that moment, the alien mistress understood the truth of humanity, and it changed everything.